It's not about any other thing than us, you and me, uniting, coming together, even if we differ in our views, even if we don't agree on most things. One thing I think we can all agree on is this world's pretty fucking awesome, and it's worth fighting for. It's worth creating the next iteration of the best version of it yet. And we can do that. You and me, we can do that if we choose to, if we stop giving our power away to something else, especially a government entity. Do you really fucking think they have our best interest in mind? We got to be fucking nuts to think so. Yeah, I know. You think your politician, you think your candidate was the answer. Guess what? Wrong answer, my friend. That's not true. You are the answer. I'm the answer. We together collectively, baby. We are the answer. It's time to rise above this shit. It's time to put it behind us. It's time to accept what is, whether we like it or not. It's time to adapt accordingly. And most importantly, it's time to become strong. It's time to become united. It's time to become excellent together. Hello, my friends. JT DeBolt with you today for the True Driven Podcast, the podcast for the few, the true, the driven, those of us who have united to become the True Driven. And I say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time it is for you, no matter where you might be tuning in from on the Big Blue Marble. Thank you, as always, for joining me right here, especially here on YouTube, youtube.com/JT DeBolt, as well as all of the podcast platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks to all of you, new and folks that have been around the block with us a few years, for following this message. And of course, hit that subscribe button so that you can stay in the know and be the first to know when I bring you new content. I love, of course, podcast, or I should say YouTube, because I'm able to bring you a diversity of different types of media, different types of information that is pertinent to you true drivens out there. And today's message, man, this is one that I have been both eager and anticipatory, for lack of a better term, to bring to you because of the nature and the timing of this message. Now, total transparency, I am recording this the day before the 2024 presidential election here in the United States. This is going to come out likely the day after. So by the time this message is revealed to the world, the election will have come and gone. Now, will the actual result be done? Probably not. Probably not. Knowing the way that our current election process goes here in the United States, it may be days, weeks, who knows. But what we do know is that by now, the dust is starting to settle. There's a lot of messages coming to and fro about who won, who didn't win, and all kinds of the little by stories and small stories in between. Now, the purpose of this message has very little to do with the actual outcome of the election itself. Now, you're either totally excited or totally pissed off or somewhere in between those two polar opposites about what's being reported as the outcome. One winner, one loser. And depending on how you came into it, depending on your expectations, depending on sort of your buy-in, if you will, to one side or the other, you may be feeling specific emotions, maybe very high, maybe very low. Maybe you're indifferent to it. If you didn't vote, then you probably don't have a whole lot of stake in it anyway. But for those of us who did, right now, today is a very interesting time if we choose to take it that way. This is an opportunity for leaders to step up and show your true colors. Because the truth is, it doesn't really matter who won or who didn't win, especially the presidential election. Because let's face it, at this point in the game, the president is more or less just a figurehead. At its core, what you were voting for was not just the president as a person. You were voting for the cabinet. You were voting for the group that surrounds the president. Hopefully, you were voting for policy. Now, here's the reality. Anymore these days, we've become so divided because of the fucking mainstream media and because of social media. In fact, I don't even know if YouTube will allow this video to go out. Hopefully it will. The reality is that there's tons of censorship and traffic throttling going on around any kind of message, no matter what the spirit of the message is, especially if it rails against the narrative. And this message likely will, because quite frankly, mainstream media, big tech, all of these forces that seem to be at play seem to have a less than optimal agenda behind it as far as we, the people, are concerned. My concern for you, especially you true drivens out there, is that you don't allow any of this shit to alter what you're currently doing. That you stay focused on your mission. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who's in office. Yeah, you might want for a certain outcome. You may think that a certain outcome is going to be more preferable. You may even believe, hopefully you don't, that one person being in office versus the other one is going to somehow make a massive positive difference in your life. Or the opposite, if the other person, the one that you chose not to vote for, if they end up in office, somehow your life is ruined. If you truly believe that, we got a lot of work to do. The simple reality is this: it doesn't fucking matter, because none of those people care about you. They don't even know you exist. I know, you're probably saying, man, you're fucking crazy. That person is the answer. They're the future. They're the solution. And the reality is, no, they're not. You are. We are. It doesn't matter what side you voted on. I don't personally care. It doesn't matter what your belief systems are. It doesn't matter what your political ideology is. I firmly believe that you and me, we have the power to actually make the difference, not the person who was voted into office, not the person who is being reported to have won the election. And again, I'm recording this before the actual election, so I don't know where we are when this thing comes out. And it doesn't actually matter, because the message isn't about the presidential election. It's not about the outcome or the results. It's about what's actually important. And that is this: there's nothing we can do about it now. If you voted, you actually took part in that. And that's something you should be proud of, and something that you should be extremely grateful for, that we have that. We have that right. We have that privilege here in the United States. The interesting part about this is it's very easy to allow our egos to pull us into the whirlpool of emotions. And again, major finger pointing, if you will, toward especially legacy media, because their whole mission in life is to drive a wedge between us. It shouldn't matter really who you vote for. It doesn't answer who you are. It doesn't define who you are as a person. In fact, to be really honest with you, I think it's one of the least interesting parts about a person is their political identity. This whole concept of identity politics has created a mask, created a fog, created a smoke screen to the true things that matter right now. And that's character, ideas, communication, empathy, understanding, and of course, leadership. I'm reminded of the movie The Princess Bride. It was a movie that, as a young parent, I remember sharing with my kids when they were little. Back at a time that felt idyllic, it felt like it was such a simple part of our existence at that time. My wife and I were struggling financially as these up-and-coming entrepreneurs. I was launching my career as a speaker and as an author and all these things. And I remember watching that movie, and it's so funny because there's that scene where the line of the movie is, "You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means." And I'm reminded of that every single time I hear people talk about the term leadership as it applies to politicians. Leadership and a politician are it's incongruous. It's like saying it's the most idiotic connection because very few politicians actually exemplify leadership. If you're looking for leadership from a politician, you're looking in the wrong direction, my friend. The place to look is in the mirror. The place to look is inside your heart. Are you leading? Are you exemplifying leadership? Are you exemplifying your connection to your values? Have you defined a vision for yourself and communicated that? Have you given yourself an outlined mission that you are committed to, following through with a sense of purpose and conviction? That's what we need now. Now that the election is semi behind us, hopefully, it's time to move on. It's time to strengthen the bonds that have likely been damaged through all the bullshit, all the vitriol, all the hateful language, all the divisive behavior. Who knows what's going on at the point that this is actually published? If it's anything like 4 years ago, it's probably a wild ride right now. But it doesn't have to be. It requires that we, not just as Americans, but even if you live outside of the United States, as human beings, collectively go shoulder to shoulder and decide to drop the petty differences that don't fucking matter. I get it. You may have a very strong connection to the candidates that were running in this election, presidential and otherwise. You may have a very strong connection to some of their policies, maybe. I'll be honest with you, though. I have yet to really observe that behavior in a whole lot of people. Most people, they don't have a clue as to what the policies were behind the people that they were voting for. They were more voting out of this tribal connection to their political identity. Identity politics has completely ruined any sense of respect for each other, any sense of decency that we have as a society. Instead, what happens is somebody votes, they post on social media some ridiculous virtue signaling comment about who they voted for, as if to say the opposite side, the opponent to the person they voted for, is a disastrous human being. Let's face it, they're all disastrous human beings. They're politicians, for crying out loud. The reality is this: it doesn't really matter who you voted for. It doesn't really matter what the outcome of the election is. It doesn't matter because nobody is coming to save you. It's entirely upon your shoulders and mine. We have to collectively, you and me, come together and unite again. We are totally capable of doing this. We have the capability to come together as a people, regardless of our political identities, regardless of the ideologies that we subscribe to. It doesn't really fucking matter. What actually matters most is that we can see each other, see through the fog, see through the confusion, see through the obvious scripted division, and decide once and for all that those fucking people don't matter. All they care about is power. All they care about is control. They don't care about our well-being. They don't care about our liberty. They don't care about our freedom. And even if you and I see things differently, even if we have different perspectives on how the world should be run, to try to enforce those views on one another is a sad destruction of the soul. We can and have and will, if we choose to, live in unity, even amongst our differences. It doesn't make somebody an idiot or a bad person or anything else, any of the names that have been thrown around because they subscribe to a certain political identity. Come on, it's the least interesting part of a person. And it only has come up over the last several years because it's been used as a tool. It's been weaponized to drive that wedge between us, because divided, we become weak, we become powerless, but united, we become unstoppable. So the question then becomes, what are we, the people, going to do next? I have some suggestions. My suggestions are coming from experience. My suggestions are coming from true conviction, but also my suggestions are coming from a place that I truly believe benefit all of us, regardless of what your political views are, regardless of where you come from, regardless of your socioeconomic background, regardless of your experience in life. They will benefit all of us. The first one is we have to accept what is. It doesn't really matter what the outcome is being portrayed as the outcome of this election. It doesn't really matter what that is. The first step is we got to accept it. Now, you might be happy, you might be excited, you might be fearful, you might be disappointed, you might be flat out angry. But those emotions are not really helping. It's time to actually move on. We have to, which means we have to first accept it, and then we have to adapt to it. That's what leaders do. We have to have the ability that even if something adverse happens to us, the adversity does not destroy us. It actually makes us stronger, makes us better. And so that acceptance piece, while difficult, is absolutely required so that we can adapt and take the next step. Once we've accepted and once we've adapted, the next part is we've got to start repairing relationships, repairing dialogue, repairing connections, repairing the ability for us to actually live and unite again. Here's the good news. You don't have to agree with somebody who has a different view of yours. You don't have to accept that, meaning you don't have to take it on board and say, okay, you're right. It is perfectly okay to disagree with someone and yet still see them as a human being worth having that opinion and that belief system. That's what true leaders do. They can see the difference in other people, accept it, and realize that it doesn't damage who they are. It doesn't change anything about you. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with the person who's on the opposite side of the aisle of you. It doesn't mean that you have to agree with their policies, their stances, their belief systems. It doesn't mean that you're buying into it. It doesn't make you weak, and it doesn't mean that you're not convicted or strong in your belief systems. It has nothing to do with that. You see, that's what identity politics have you buy into. Identity politics have you believe that it's all or nothing. It's a zero-sum game. But true leadership forces us, requires of us to be better than that, to drop the judgment, to drop the need for certainty, to allow the insecurities of our egos to take a ride down the path of the river and allow us to stand strong in our values, accept what is or isn't, and move on from that. Well, look, I'm not saying this is easy, nor am I saying it's going to happen with the flip of a switch. But what I am empowering everybody and challenging you, my true drivens, to do is to now realize that none of it actually mattered in the first place. The election is the election. It's going to happen every 4 years. The outcome is going to be the outcome whether you like it or not. It's what you do next that defines what will happen for this country and the world as a whole. Each and every single one of us has a responsibility, an opportunity and a responsibility to show up and develop ourselves into the best versions of ourselves that we can. Personal excellence. I hear a lot of this talk about self-love. The greatest form of self-love, I truly believe, is the ability to accept yourself for who you are and recognize that there's always improvements to be made. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that you don't value who you are and what you've been through and what you have. It doesn't mean not being grateful. In fact, if anything, gratitude is a really important thing. We'll talk more about that in a future episode coming up. True self-love means that you can look through the lens and drop the ego and see the truth. Find those areas where improvements can be made. Find those areas where maybe critical thinking will reveal that you didn't have all the answers, that you weren't 100% right, and your desire and your addiction to want to control things and maybe other people has pushed the view a little bit skewed in a direction that's not so healthy. As a leader, we have to be willing to think like that, think critically, and to be able to apply that critical thinking in a way that includes the empathy for other people and the acceptance that they're not going to be the same as us. It's time to move on. More importantly, it's time to move on with a sense of pride in ourselves as individuals, pride in ourselves as a community, as a collective, as a country, a desire to be the best versions of ourselves that we can, especially for us here in the United States, the best Americans, the best Canadians, the best Brits, whatever country, best Australians, whatever country you live in. It's okay to be proud of your country. It's okay to be proud of where you came from. It's okay to be proud of your culture, your heritage, warts and all. It's okay to love yourself for who you are, where you're at, and have that genuine desire to develop and refine excellence in yourself. Build a strong, healthy body. Build a strong, healthy mind. Build a strong, healthy relationship with the people that are close to you. Build a strong, healthy business. Build a strong, healthy community. Politicians aren't doing that for us. It doesn't matter what happened in the election. Let's fucking drop it and move forth as the leaders that we are, as the leaders that this world requires of us. It doesn't really matter what happened or didn't happen. It doesn't matter what all of the messaging that's being spewed forth. Turn off your fucking TV. Lock in your mind. Meet and speak with your neighbors. Build connections. Build assets. Build, create, share. That's the way of the true driven. That's the way of true leaders. And that's what this country and the entire world needs most right now. We don't need a specific outcome to the election. I know that it would be great if it was a certain way, and maybe it is for you, but guaranteed it's not for everyone. But one thing that is true for everyone is that we don't need those people. We don't need fucking politicians. We need each other. We need ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves for each other so that we can rise together. We can truly unite and create the best version we've ever had of this country and the countries around us, the world as a whole. Push back against the tyrants. Push back against the control. Push back against all of this bullshit. Stand firm in your beliefs. Stand firm in your vision. Stand firm in your values. And lead courageously through the example of personal excellence. That's what we need right now. I was reminded by a great guy named Brady Pasola. He had a quote that I'm going to read to you from Epictetus. It's a Stoic quote. Don't wish for things to happen as you want them to. Wish for things to happen as they do, and you'll be at peace. The beautiful part about it is it doesn't even matter. These people don't care. Not much is going to change. Yeah, things might get weird. Things might go haywire for a little bit. But overall, we, the people, have the power to make things as awesome, as excellent, as beautiful as possible. It's not about any other thing than us, you and me, uniting, coming together, even if we differ in our views, even if we don't agree on most things. One thing I think we can all agree on is this world's pretty fucking awesome, and it's worth fighting for. It's worth creating the next iteration of the best version of it yet. And we can do that. You and me, we can do that if we choose to. If we stop giving our power away to something else, especially a government entity, do you really fucking think they have our best interest in mind? We got to be fucking nuts to think so. Yeah, I know. You think your politician, you think your candidate was the answer. Guess what? Wrong answer, my friend. That's not true. You are the answer. I'm the answer. We together collectively, baby, we are the answer. It's time to rise above this shit. It's time to put it behind us. It's time to accept what is, whether we like it or not. It's time to adapt accordingly. And most importantly, it's time to become strong. It's time to become united. It's time to become excellent together. We can do this. We have to do this. And we will do this. The question is, are you in? Are you going to be a part of this? If you are, I want you to find somebody today, maybe somebody you disagree with, maybe somebody that you know you're at odds with throughout this entire election cycle, and find a way to start building that bridge, repairing that bridge if necessary. Find a way to start strengthening us as a community, as humanity, for crying out loud. That's what true leaders do. That's what we need more. We don't need the election result to be a certain way. We need us, we the people, to be the best versions of ourselves and for each other. That's the way. I genuinely hope you will share this message far and wide. It's coming from a true, authentic place of love, respect, and hope. Belief, conviction that things will get better, that we will bounce back. We will become the best versions ever of ourselves, whether that's the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada. It doesn't matter where you live, but especially here, close to home. And if you are one of those people who was elected into office, listen to me. Know this. You have a responsibility to the constituents that put you there. They have employed you. You work for us, not the other way around. We, the people, will run this country. We will be the small businesses that keep the economy strong. We will be the hardworking middle class that solidifies the strength of our nation. We will be the entrepreneurs who build, innovate, and create. We will always be there because we've always been there. We will continue to be amazing. We will continue to be strong. We will continue to be excellent because that's what we do. We are leaders. My friends, it's time. It's our time. It's time to unite. It's time to grow. It's time to reach out. It's time to drop the bullshit, man. It's time to define and exemplify true leadership today and every single day, here in the United States and throughout the rest of the world. You and me, the true drivens. It's our time. Let's rise. Let's unite. Let's fucking go. My friends, it's a true honor to come at you each and every single week here on the True Driven Podcast. Please share this far and wide. Hit that subscribe button so you can stay in the know, be the first to know, and know when I bring new content. And remember, no matter what course you fly in life, fly high, fly fast, fly far, stay driven.